Welcome back to the Arsenal Fan Theory podcast. Thanks for joining us in section one. So, this section we're going to concentrate on the game at hand. We can move on from the City shenanigans. So, if we've got Brighton and Hove Albion this weekend, and there was a lot of injuries obviously in the City game. Especially our back four might look very different to the one we saw against City. Dean, do you think there's a possible? Well, it's most likely, but what do you think about the possibility of holding Mustafi centre pairing?
Yeah, Brennan, just as you said, there's definitely a big possibility now with, David Luiz is going to have to face a three-match suspension. Pablo Mari is out injured. So, yeah, that kind of leaves us with, you know, of course, Mustafi to me has to make the team. But, yeah, then next to him is either Holding or Socrates. And I don't know, it seems as though Socrates is starting to be faded out of the team. So I agree with you. We might just see so a Holding and Mustafi combination.
Yeah, well, I know Socrates was ruled out for injury this game, so we haven't really got an update there. It seems like Murray had a pulled hamstring or pulled calf muscle, so he's probably out for a few weeks. That's what it looked like when he was taken off. But yeah, I'm actually quite excited to see Holding back in action. I think he's got a lot of potential. Hopefully, the last 9 games or 8 games of the season, he can just reinforce, his place in the team. Mike, it's quite a strange thing, having Mustafi as the nailed on centre back. Thinking of what happened 5, 6 months ago, how things can change under a manager. What do you think about the whole situation?
Well, obviously with Mustafi, almost every Arsenal fan wanted him out. There were a lot of calls for him just to be sold. No one was happy with how he was defending. He also tends to make a lot of big mistakes, such as Luis. But I think you're absolutely right. Under Arteta, he looks like a transformed player. He does look like our best defender at the moment, but that doesn't say too much. But yeah, it's also the perfect opportunity for Holding to really cement a place in the side and prove what he has in him. Because I'm sure we're not going to see too much of Socrates or Louise. It's still going to be a while before Chambers can play a full 90 minutes again. Mavropanos is out on loan, Murray is injured, so yeah, it's a real opportunity for Holding. Yeah.
You know, as I think I can say that unless things happen in our favor, we can say goodbye to top four. Top five might still be a possibility, but I think we should shift focus from that top four top five race, and just start implementing Arteta's proper philosophy, his team. So maybe start concentrating on playing a team that is built for the future. Dean, so on that, do you think Arteta's going to start playing that way? And what do you think, the possible lineup for our game against Brighton might be, considering injuries and contract situations?
Yeah, so Brendan, I think we've already seen it in the City game, last night's game. He is starting to favour more of the youth at Arsenal. And I truly believe that there's a future for Arsenal with these youth players. So yeah, I can definitely see him. We can't say that the top five race is completely out of question. Top four is now 8 points, so it is starting to become out of question the top fourth position. But yeah, even if we win all of our games going forward, it's not going to show us the top fifth position. But as we discussed previously, all of these top 5 or 6 teams still have to play each other at least a couple of times. So there are points to be dropped. But yeah, I would really rather like to see Arteta start implementing, which he is already doing. But yeah, to start implementing and getting these young players through the system, giving them the experience they need, coaching them, not just in training, but now he's got the opportunity to coach them in game. And yeah, it's the best opportunity. If we can see that there's nothing left for us for the season, we should prioritize giving experience to the youth. Um, Sorry, and then your second question?
So I was just asking, what do you think the team is going to look like to
Ah, yes.
difference to the City game? Obviously, there are going to be the enforced changes due to injury, but do you think there are going to be any other major changes to the squad?
Yeah, so, just let's go on the starting 11 that Arteta chose. I agree with you. Holding, I think, might just fill in there with Mustafi. I think that's going to be the two defensive pairings, and that's of course because of Murray's injury. Then in midfield again, we've got an issue with Shaka. So I still see Guendouzi keeping his position in the team. And against a team like Brighton, where we're not going to have to worry about a combative midfield as Cities, or a team that's trying to hold possession as much as City. Yes, Brighton are in a transition of their own. They are looking to play more football these days, but to me that plays in our hands. A team that wants to come play our own game, except for a bigger team like Liverpool or City, I think that plays in our favour. Yeah, so then I would like to see Pepe come in on the right hand side. I think I agree with you. Like you said earlier in the episode before, Saka, he struggled on the right hand side. I don't think he likes going onto his right foot, which is a problem. But it's something that they need to coach into, because to me, each and every professional player should be able to play with both feet. But that's going off the point. Striker still Aubameyang, and then left hand side I'd like to see, or hoping to see, Martinelli this time. And then yeah, I think we need to start Ceballos from the go this time behind the striker. Yeah, so that's, I think the only changes would be then the holding for Mari. The Sorry, my midfield pairing
You
was
said Guendouzi, Ceballos, but
and
so you think
uh,
Willock's gonna
yeah,
help?
Willock. Sorry, Willock was the other one that I would probably hope to fall into there. I think those three have got, but yeah. Then on the right hand side, like I said, Pepe swap with Saka, Martinelli swap with Uber, and then play Uber Mayang in his proper position.
Mike, do you think the team's going to look like what Dean suggests? I personally feel it would be the right time to drop someone like Willock again, because you have to have this type of accountability within the team. If you don't perform, you drop out. But with the whole Ozil situation, I don't see a lot of alternatives there unless he experiments with like the
Sorry, I think we're having some technical difficulties.
yeah.
Yeah, I lost you there, Brent.
All right. You just I was just what was the last thing you heard?
Willock, about how you feel he should be held accountable for
Yeah.
his performance.
Mike, do you think Willock should start, or do you think we should change change the attacking midfield role? The only problem is that we don't really have a lot of options there if Ozil's not in the fold at the moment.
In all honesty, Brent, I'm expecting to see a lot of changes for this match. I know Arteta obviously has a clear thought of what his best 11 would be, but after 100 days without football, like I mentioned a few times now, 5 games in 15 days is one game every 3 days. So it's not just Arsenal after our first 25 minutes we had 2 injuries, but ever since football has come back, injuries has been a lot more. It's been plentiful. So I think it's going to be a lot of changes. We'll probably see Bellerin and Tierney again. Leno, I agree with the Mustafi holding. I actually think in midfield we might see Maitland-Niles and Sabah start. Pepe on the right, Lacazette up top, and Martinelli on the left. And then CAM, I don't know, it's anyone's guess. It might be Sabah and then Guendouzi plays, or it might be Ozil, I think.
Well,
Keeping in
I
mind
know.
all the problems you think there might be with the Ozil situation.
No, it's difficult to call, especially because we don't have a lot of insights on any player updates or injury updates yet. Hi, Kira. Our guest is back.
Say hello.
Uh, so regarding the team, I don't know.
It's gonna come now. Okay.
Arteta's
Almost
It looks
finished.
like he prefers um, Aubameyang down the left. So there might be an opportunity for Lacazette to come back, but we'll have to wait and see. I would personally still prefer to see Lacazette up top. It just brings a different dimension to our team. Um, with Aubameyang, there's no doubt he's the biggest goal threat we've got. He's one of the probably the best player at the club at the moment. But we we tend to play one style of football with him at the top of the of the shape. So with Lacazette, there's just a bit more diversity in our play, in our build-up play, our link-up play. But I also don't see Nelson coming. I also don't see Pepe coming back into the fold. I think he would prefer someone
So
like
I'm gonna come
a
help you now. Okay.
Nelson down the right hand side. Mike,
Yeah, well, it's anyone's guess who might play between Nelson and Pepe. Nelson didn't have too big impact or too much to play against City, and Pepe wasn't involved at all, you know. And we know they're both regarded as very talented players. I think he has both of them in their plans for the future. But in my opinion, I would like to see Pepe starting.
well, I also really hope Torreira's back into the mix because that would just give our side so much more balance, especially now that Xhaka's missing. Um, on the Brighton and Hove Albion team, I haven't really followed them for a while. You just watch their games when they play against us, basically. Do you guys have any insight on key players we need to look out for? I know Aaron Mooney, that was always a Huddersfield player, always provides that bit of a spark, especially against Arsenal. He seems to perform well. Any other players you guys would want to highlight on the Brighton side?
Well, we might need to bring a little bit of a physical presence as well because they do have big defenders. I know Lewis Dunk is an important part of their team. He defends really well and he's big on the set plays. You know, he likes to attack the ball, and he's also good at keeping the aerial balls out and winning those aerial duels.
So Dean, Michael talking about Dunk. How would you think someone like Aubameyang playing centre forward would engage in that physical battle? Would that not be so? That would cut off that type of game plan where we won't be able to play the quick long ball. Well, technically, it won't probably be that necessary because we're playing against Brighton. We're not playing against City, so we're not gonna use the long ball as much. So,
Yeah, look, I agree with you. Whereas we won't need the long ball as much, but yeah, Aubameyang is gonna have to, in a sense, shy away from the physical battle with Dunk. Because at the end of the day, Aubameyang is not going to win a physical battle or an aerial battle with Dunk. Let's be honest. Nor do I see Lacazette having the chance either. Whoever starts up front, either Lacazette or Uber, will have to break away from Dunk. So, not necessarily a ball over the top, but a ball between the lines or moving away. I agree with Michael where Dunk is one of their key players, in defense. I think we were linked with him about 2 years ago or a year ago. We were linked with actually buying him, which shows you the quality Dunk has. So yeah, I think you're gonna have to play off of his shoulder. Like Aubameyang likes to do, play off of the defender's shoulder. But we're gonna have to shy away from him trying to hold the ball up against Dunk or win any aerial duels against Dunk. It's not going to happen there. So yeah, we're going to have to keep the ball on the ground to ensure that he can hold possession.
um, Mike, where? So I'm just thinking here, right, out loud. Wouldn't it be? I think there's a lot of similarities between a player like Pepe and a player like Ozil in his prime, right? When Ozil was a bit more dynamic, he took on players a bit more. He was much more, willing to try and beat the defender, which is a big part of Pepe's game. with the lack of options in the middle, especially if Ozil doesn't feature, you know, isn't there space for us to try someone like a Pepe in the CAM position and make space for someone like a Nelson on the right hand side?
That's a really interesting thought that you have there, Bryn. I think Pepe could really flourish on the attacking side in that CAM role. But I would rather see someone like Nelson moving to that CAM role, because he does get played in a lot more different positions than Pepe does. Pepe tends just to play on the right. And he also does tend to track back and defend more. So I think that's what Arteta would look more for in a CAM.
Well, I personally don't think. I think Pepe's got more of the attributes to play in a creative midfield role. I think the wide position suited to Nelson, and Pepe in any case drifts inside so much. He rarely touches that byline as much as Nelson does. Dean, what is your insight to my opinion?
Well, I think, look, it's a very good opinion that we should start trying some other players in that position. I think one player you guys are not considering is Martinelli, to play Martinelli in that position, Play Martinelli just behind the striker there. Um, then you've either got your Pepe Nelson or your Saka or Uber with Laka in front or Uber on front. So yeah, it's I don't know. I think we will all have it in a sense a different opinion on who could fill in that position because we actually haven't really seen too many players try and fill out that position. But talking on quality wise and tracking back and the job that needs to be done, you can see it in a sense in these young players that not to say that Pepe wouldn't be able to do the job, but Pepe has been trained for a lot longer on another way or on his way on doing his job as a right winger or right midfielder. With
Well,
these young players, you've still got a bit more of an influence. Not to say you don't have an influence on a player like Pepe, because that's ridiculous. Otherwise, you wouldn't. How can coaches improve players at 27 and such? But yeah, I don't know. For me, I would like to see one of the youngsters given a run in there.
yeah, well, to me personally, I think Martinelli would probably be better than a Willock in the false nine position, if we could say as much, because he'd bring much more of a goal threat. But stylistically, I think they're very similar. Which I mean, they're both running midfielders or running players, so they run a lot with the ball. They're not as creative with the ball. Where Pepe, in my opinion, is a bit more creative as an eye for the through pass for the assist because so it would just add a different dynamic on top of what Willock's already bringing to us. But uh, I'd
And we've
say,
also just got to consider that in the midfield, you don't have the space that you have on the wings.
yeah,
So how would that affect Pepe's game is what we would need to take into consideration, or how it would affect any of these players that we are speaking about.
yeah.
The midfield is the most compact part of the game.
Mm. Yeah, well, I was just trying to get a hypothetical because we it
Yeah.
seems like we are so limited in that position at the moment, especially due to injuries, due to controversies with Ozil. We don't know what's going to happen there, so we might need to look at the rest of the season to, mold a different player there. But we've gotten a bit off topic. We haven't really touched the Brighton game. I just want to go back to the first game. Okay, so I understand it's a new manager, but just listen to these stats, right? This was uh, just want to pull up if it's the right game. So the last time it was 1-1. I'm just not sure if this is the right game, but shots. Brighton had 12 shots to Arsenal 7, which was quite concerning if you look at the possession stats. We had 68% of the possession and they had 32% of the possession. Do any of you think we would see a big change in those stats regarding, under Arteta facing this team because yes, it was City, it was a big team, but we conceded something like what was last night? Last night we conceded something like 12 shots on target, where we didn't have any shots on target. Was that a worrying trend for you?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a worrying trend, but it was sort of to be expected against City. You know, if you're going up against them, that there are going to come a lot of shots on your goal. I definitely think also the stats should change for the Brighton game. It was clear that we had a lot of problems under Emery earlier in the season. Our defending was just terrible. We didn't look ambitious attacking, if I could say it like that. It didn't look like we were trying to create the goals. We were just waiting for spaces to open up. So just to work in them.
I
But
stand
yeah,
sorry. I stand corrected just before you continue, Mike. The game was actually so I went back a year instead of just a game. So we actually lost 2-1 to Brighton the last time out. Where shots were 19 to Brighton, 10 to Arsenal. Shots on target 10 to Brighton, 5 to Arsenal. And they had the bulk of the possession, 51% to 49%. But yeah, that just reiterates the what you were saying that like we were a very different team under Emery.
yeah, no, definitely. Uh, the a lot of the fans were beginning to get very upset with Emery and wanted him out of the club because we were looking like a losing side on him, if I'm being honest with you. So under Arteta, it's been almost a complete change. It looks like the players are starting to believe a bit again. They're starting to work a lot harder. It looks they're defending with a lot more intensity, effort. They're trying. Well, they are a bit more disciplined, but there's obviously still a lot of issues there. And yeah, attacking we're a lot more fluent. We're just still lacking that goal scoring ability, but I'm sure over time that Arteta has to work with the club. It's something that will definitely start to come in full flow.
Yeah, well, I think we have seen a big change in dynamics and in um, stats under Arteta, but for the first few games and especially well not the first few sorry the last few games we did see an increase where other teams were having a lot more shots on target against Arsenal. Dean, keeping these stats in mind, what do you think we can expect on Saturday, sorry, and what are your predictions for the game?
Um, yeah, taking all of these statistics and previous meetings into account, I think Arteta will make sure that he is set up, at least solid enough that we don't repeat these same mistakes or we don't concede 20 chances in a game because that's unbelievable. Um, but exactly that was the problem under Emery. We were. It seemed towards the end of his stint that we were always conceding more shots than we were taking. Yeah. So how I think Arteta will approach it differently is he will make sure in the first 15 minutes that we don't make any mistakes. We don't want to start the game off just after the City loss. We don't want to start the game off 1-0, 2-0 down in the first 20 minutes by stupid mistakes. So I think he will emphasize the concentration, the effort, everything into the players to make sure that we don't slip up in the beginning. And then from there, once we gain confidence, once we start to feel our feet, you'll see the players start opening a bit more, start taking a few more chances. So yeah, tactically, I do think we will play an attacking team. But yeah, first 10, 15 minutes, we'll make sure that nothing breaks through us. We will, yeah. But that that doesn't mean that after the first 15 minutes the guys can just relax. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we will make sure that we start the game well off.
And your score predictions for Saturday?
Score predictions. I'm going with a 3-1 Arsenal.
Mike, what are your score predictions and how do you think the game might pan out? I know I think what Dean said is very valid. That those first few minutes I think Arsenal are just gonna try and protect the lead, or not the lead, the score line. Just play it safe, and maybe rebuild their confidence with keeping some possession, building up some, getting us a nice build up play. Building themselves into the game. I think is what I'm getting at. So, what's your opinion on what's gonna happen on Saturday?
I'm looking for a reaction from the club and from the players, which I think we'll get. Arteta is not one to have negative players in his squad. So if there is any negativity around the squad, they won't even show up at match day. The team also knows that every game from here on is a must win. Not only for top four, top five hopes or European football. At this stage, it's almost becoming a point of pride. Because everyone knows what these players are capable of, what we are as a club, and we've been really underwhelming this season. I know it's a period of transition for Arsenal, but it's not been the best. So yeah, I think we will get a reaction, but I won't think it would be like a complete turnaround from the City game. And it's also a way where our form hasn't been the best. I'll go for 2-1 Arsenal.
Interesting. There's no clean sheets yet.
No,
I'm guessing that's based
I,
on our defense, because we've definitely got a keeper that, I don't know. He deserves someone that, and or a defensive line in front of him that helps him out every now and again.
I think
I'm
he kept what four clean sheets before lockdown, eh?
4 to
Yes,
5, yeah.
yeah, he had
4 out of 5.
four.
So the ability is there. I agree with you. He just needs
Some
he
help.
needs a bit of help in front of him. Yeah.
Uh, I must say I'm quite excited in the prospect of seeing Holding back in the team. Nervous but excited. I think it's gonna bring a different dynamic to what we're doing. I also am pretty excited to see what Arteta does with the front three, because I feel that he is going to change things, and depending on what he feels is the best, it might be a variety of things. Like you guys mentioned, the Martinelli, Pepe, Oba combination. I personally think he's going to go with the Lacazette, Oba, probably Nelson combination, but it builds a bit more extra excitement, the unknown of what's going to happen on Saturday. Um, I think we'll be able to turn it around. I think it's going to be a 2-1 score, and as well, I think it's going to be it's going to be a very closely contested game, because we obviously not very high in confidence after that drubbing by City. So it might just take a couple of wins to get that fluidity and that swag back. Right. Anything else that you guys think I missed regarding the Brighton build up?
No,
Uh,
I think we can sit here and talk football all day. And this is, what if this happens? What if that happens? But yeah, I want to just touch on the Rob Holding selection of yours. Let's go back to when we won the FA Cup against City. If you watch how Rob Holding, so the quality is there. Rob Holding has put in quality performances as well as subpar performances. Quality is there. It would be nice to see him get an extended run in the game, in the team.
I
yeah,
think, sorry, Mike, I think it's ideal. It's an ideal situation for him personally to stick his hand up and say, I am still here. I can still be part of the squad. I want to be part of the first team. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say that's been a big problem throughout our entire squad. We've got plenty of talent and potential, but our problem has just been consistency. We've been struggling to perform on a consistent basis. But yeah, I agree with you guys. It is a very big opportunity for Holding. I mean, I can't think that Arsenal isn't looking to strengthen their defense next season, and it's been such a long time since we've actually properly got to see Holding. He can put up his hand and be like the new signing that we need next summer.
Well, it's like news coming out. We'll probably need some of our current players to act as new signings, because the more stories I read, I think that the less likely it is that we are gonna like strongly reinforce our squad over the summer. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for joining our third episode of the Arsenal Fan Theory podcast. We hope to see you. We hope to see you in the next one. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.